Welcome home, horror fans. My name's Adam.
And I'm Zoe, and these are the 10 best traps from the Saw franchise.
These are the traps that we enjoyed watching the most over the entire franchise.
I'd say the ones that we even pick up on YouTube sometimes, just to get a bit of a laugh or a bit of excitement out of them. They're definitely our personal favourites, I would say.
Our favourites and probably the most rewatchable traps.
Definitely.
That's right. So starting off with number 10, we have...
At number 10, we have the pendulum trap from Saw 5. Knowing who it is and knowing it's Seth Baxter and having it start off Saw 5, which is arguably one of our personal favourites, and knowing that Seth Baxter plays a significant part in Hoffman's story, I just get so excited every time Saw 5 opens and we see the pendulum trap. It's brutal. You don't really care about the guy that's in it. You want him to suffer just as much as Hoffman does, I would say. And I always think it's fairly exciting to watch.
It is exciting. It's a pretty big trap, but it's also kind of very realistic. It's well done because it's so believable. But I do find it very, it's one of the more gory traps.
It is pretty gory. I think that it's like classic Saw as well. Like if you had to sit there and be like classic Saw trap, this would be up there with one of them. They do get kind of crazy towards the later films, and I just love how to the roots this trap is.
It is, because also like the performance of the trap victim, he really looks like he's having a bad time here. We get to also enjoy, of course, Hoffman spying on him a little bit, which is cool.
Peephole,
And famously, this trap is actually one of the few traps which was quite heavily edited over the years for different countries and different times that they had to stream it on TV.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty full-on trap always. But we're going to move straight on to number 9.
At number 9, we have the silent circle from Saw 3D.
You have 1 minute to pull the fishhook from her stomach and unlock her device.
Now, the silent circle is a trap that has our favorite character, Bobby Dagan, having to pull a fishing hook straight out of the esophagus of a poor trap victim.
It's interesting. It's an interesting trap. Unfortunately, it does feature one of our least favourite characters in the entire franchise. And of course, it's not in the greatest film in the entire franchise. But this trap is so well thought out. I think that it is one of the scariest traps and one of those traps that you just would not want to be in.
Horrible to think about.
Just a horrible
the pain
experience.
of it, for sure. And you guys probably thinking, why the hell did we pick a trap that's got Bobby Dagan in it? But it is a cool trap. We don't want to sort of, completely pull out everything that has Bobby Dagan involved. This trap, you could just imagine having that hook getting pulled.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. And also, as much as we don't like Bobby Dagan, he gives us one of the greatest lines.
Yeah. You just had to shut up!
Why would you just shut the fuck up?
And to be honest, we enjoy that,
I was actually going to get to that point as well.
Yes.
The line delivery at the end of the trap when it's finished, by Bobby, is great. I
Yes,
love it. I
we
think
love
it's
it.
one of maybe his best lines in the whole movie, and that's saying a lot.
One of his best lines and one of the best quotes in the Saw franchise.
For sure,
we want to say. You just had to shut up. It's really, really fantastic. So we do actually enjoy this trap. And for a number of different reasons. Again, it's one of these probably simple traps where it feels quite realistic and just almost kind of gross to think I
would say that it's not overly violent, but just imagining yourself in that circumstance is just
it's more
enough
the
to be
imagine of it.
I don't think I want to watch this right now.
100%, exactly right. And moving on to number 8.
At number 8, we have the needle pit from Saw 2.
How could we not put the needle pit on this list?
Having Amanda be the one who endures this suffering of falling into a pit of needles, being a drug addict, a prior drug addict, what a moment.
Oh, it's phenomenal. But not only that, it's definitely one of those traps where even before we really started getting into Saw, you would always talk about the needle pit all the time, which goes to show it's just one of the most iconic traps. And there are a few iconic ones. But this is the one where when people do watch Saw movies, they always go, oh, is that the one with the needle pit in it?
Yeah, it's the trap that sticks with people, regardless if you're a casual Saw fan, you've only seen Saw once, or if you're a mega Saw fan like we are. It is that trap that you don't forget. It's the trap that I always remember, specifically when you think back to Saw 2, the color in this scene being very, very yellow. Oh, it's intense. It's an intense
It's great.
watch.
They went to a lot of effort, you know, it was 120,000 needles that they had to put in that pit.
Yeah.
It's a lot of effort to make it look as realistic. And you could just imagine the interns sitting there pulling all the little pins off the needles to make it safe for the actors. It was a lot of work to make this trap, but it really did stand out. And I think a lot of people just find it to be one of the grossest traps and just
the grossest. And I think I've said this before, but the needle pit, it's not hard to imagine what it would feel like. We've all been stuck with a needle before. Yes, we are all sitting in the doctor's office waiting and knowing that we have to get an injection and be like, oh, do I really have to? Like, it's not a fun feeling.
Yeah.
And then to fall in it and have to dig through it and try and find a key. I think I'll sit this one out.
It's it's kind of like very much the same as the idea of having, say, one of your fingernails being pulled off, or just like one of those disgusting things where you're like, oh, the idea, you know? No one wants one needle, let alone 120,000 of them.
But in saying that, it is still our favorite.
Yes, of course. I mean, look, it's fantastic to watch. It is one of those traps where, you know, it's just one of those traps where you compare it to something like Jigsaw, where you just have these ridiculous traps, and you think to yourself, "Wow, like where have we gone to over the years?" You know, it's just crazy. But this trap had to be on the list. Super easy. What do we got next?
At number 7, we have the wire saw trap from Saw 10.
This one, like, it really stands out when you watch it. It holds your attention the entire time.
I think a lot of the traps in Saw 10, a lot of the big traps, they just go on for quite a long time.
It's true.
And this one is, it's long. It's long and it's drawn out, and it's just every time you think it's going to finish, it just gets crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell they were aiming with Saw 10 to just up the ante on the gore. And they did with this trap.
This is a great trap to watch because it does, again, look really realistic. And they went really well on the stunt coordinator. They actually made the leg look so real that even the director, I think Kevin Grudit, said that he couldn't tell which was the real leg and which was the fake leg. It was so hard. It was so well done. And I think because this trap is multifaceted, the idea that she has to cut the leg off and also suck the juice out, a lot of people have a lot of hard time, not just with the leg cutting, but the juice sucking. People are like, ugh, that's the gross part.
Yeah, it's kind of gross, but I love it. I think although, like, there's a lot to it, it kind of just takes us back to when, you know, Dr. Gordon had to cut off his own foot and all those sorts of moments, which I think Saw was where it was at its best, when it had these simple traps. Although the trap is quite complex, at the end of the day, she's still just cutting off her leg, and it's super intense. She delivers a fantastic performance.
Amazing.
Your eyes are glued to the screen the whole time, regardless of what's happening.
And there's some really great beats in this trap as well. When she first cuts into the leg, that first moment, you're like, oh, you're right there. And then also when she gets it straight off too. Just the way that they've presented this, you really almost like feel it along with her.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And you never get sick of watching this trap as well.
Never.
You got to commend Saw X on really bringing some great traps.
Yep.
So we love this trap. Easy one to put on the list for sure. And that brings us to our next trap.
At number 6, we have the Angel Trap from Saw 3.
Now, you guys probably guessed this was going to be on the list. People love the Angel Trap. It just looks too good.
Exactly. Stylistically, the Angel Trap is probably one of the prettiest, nicest looking traps in the whole franchise. So it was hard not to include it in this list. We love watching it every time. As much as we hate that Carrie met her demise very, very early in the film, we love the trap.
We love the trap.
Awesome.
We love Carrie, of course, one of our favorite characters being in this trap. It doesn't hurt. People love to debate on how she should have gone about getting the key out of the acid. Of course, she had to reach into a jar of acid to get her key out.
I think even Kevin said himself that he's like, well, technically, I think she could have just lifted that jug.
Everybody just likes the idea of pouring the acid out, and everyone likes to argue about it. They love to talk about that. But also just the way she ends up dying, the way it sort of just breaks out. It all just looks fantastic.
She braces herself for it. It's horrible. And having Amanda standing there at the end watching on as it happens, it's a great moment.
It's a really great moment. And it's also kind of surprising, too, because she meets her demise so early on in the film.
That's what I mean.
And she was a big character.
It seems like when we first saw 3 that Carrie would have her Eric Matthews moment where she would be the center of the entire film. She's been a character that has appeared in every film since Saw 1 at that point. And then she dies, like within the first 30 minutes. But in an amazing trap, so.
In an amazing trap, that's right. I mean, we still, justice for Carrie. It's a shame.
It is.
But she got one of the best traps.
She did. She did.
Definitely.
And you can't complain with that.
Can't complain about
They're
it
all
at
going to go out one way or another. So
That's right.
You can't complain if it's a great trap.
Exactly. It's Saw. You're going to die eventually.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
may as well be in a great trap. Which
Not if
brings
you're
us-
Mark Hoffman.
Of course, he's not dead. Which brings us to the next trap.
At number 5, we have the rack trap from Saw 3.
The rack trap. Now, this is John Kramer's personal favorite.
It's another one from Saw 3 as well. And being John Kramer's personal favorite, how can we not include it in our personal favorite list?
Exactly right. This is a terribly disgusting trap in which...
See, it's never bothered me that much.
I mean, look, watching him get all those bits and pieces twisted, it's got to bother you a little bit. No, you love it.
It's never bothered me that much. I don't know. I think that although, like, you know, there's bones cracking and the sound of it is not great, it's not the goriest trap out there. It's not super full on compared to, say, Valentina cutting off her leg or, you know, other traps like that. So it doesn't particularly bother me that much. If anything, I think the performance is given in this trap.
Yeah, he's
and
amazing.
then in the scene, Jeff and Timothy Young. That is what elevates this trap so much further.
Timothy Young, you can really see on his face that he's not having a good time.
No.
But it is incredibly brutal. The way his arms and everything are getting twisted and you just see everything. Oh, it's really hardcore.
Yeah.
It's a cool trap because it also looks quite aesthetic, like the way it's set up. And again, it's one of these traps which do look quite realistic and you can imagine it happening to you. So there's a lot of elements here that just work really, really well. And it's a great story moment too because
It is a
Timothy,
great
of course,
story moment.
being the killer of Jeff's son, it does add that emotional element for
Absolutely.
Jeff as well.
That's definitely why I think that what's going on in the scene is so much more effective.
Yeah.
But yeah, great scene, great moment, great trap. We look forward to it every time we watch Saw 3. It's a big moment.
It's a very big moment. And also another one that's very memorable as well.
Absolutely.
So absolutely had to be on the list, which brings us to the next trap.
At number 4, we have the brain surgery trap from Saw 10.
The brain surgery trap from Saw X. Phenomenal trap. Absolutely phenomenal trap. It is another trap which, just like we mentioned Valentina's trap from Saw X, another one that you really can't stop. You cannot look away from this trap the entire
absolutely.
time.
And another one that goes on for quite some time
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of the traps in Saw 10 do feel like they go on for a while. And I think that's done on purpose because it is, like, you can't look away, but you also want to look away, but you can't. And Mateo's trap being put in the brain surgery trap, although this trap is super unrealistic, it's so fun to watch.
It is, and it's another one that is multifaceted as well. So Mateo, of course, is tasked to cut open his own skull, pull out pieces of his brain, and that's not enough. He then has to wait until the actual brain matter is measured on a scale. It's a whole thing. There's way too much going on here. I don't know how anyone's supposed to do this in 3 minutes.
I think it was pretty much that once the brain matter had dissolved, and as long as it was enough, then it would open the key to then unlock his binds in the chair, which just seems like there's so many elements to it. And it's like, how is he even going to cut into his skull in the first place? And to be given no anesthetic, I don't know. This trap is ridiculous.
It's way over
but
the top.
regardless of how over the top and insane it is, we still look forward to
It's
it
so much
every
fun.
single time we watch Saw 10. It's so much fun.
much fun.
It was the one that blew everyone away in cinema.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't not have it here.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And it's my favorite part is when he's got the piece of brain and he's just jiggling it in his hand.
Yeah.
About to put it down. And you're just waiting for him to drop it. That would have been, for me, just even elevate it more.
For an already insane trap, to have him drop it on the floor
would have been the best.
Would have been so good.
Just like, I've cut
So
my whole
good.
brain open.
To see him
taken
look at the
bits out.
brain on the floor and be like, oh, and
Just
then have to
after-
go back in
yes.
again.
After everything I've done for nothing, to
Yeah.
drop it on the floor, that's a bit of my brain over there. You know, it's
Yeah.
great. I would have loved that so much, but it just really is entertaining. This
Yeah.
trap is also a fun one to show to your friends if they haven't watched Saw, and especially if they're a bit squeamish.
Show to your friends if they haven't watched Saw and let them know that they should never watch Saw
Yeah,
because
you know?
they will be disgusted
If your
by it.
grandma hasn't seen it, definitely wheel her out and show her this trap because she will love it. This is where we're getting to the really good traps.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
absolutely. And that brings us to the next trap.
We're in the top 3
The
now.
top 3. This is where we're getting really, really good.
At number 3, we have the water cube trap from Saw 5.
You guys had to know for us, we were going to put in some Storm action. You know we love Storm. And, of course, the water cube trap is so fun to watch.
It's so iconic. And how good is Saw 5 to have open with the pendulum trap and then not long after that have Storm be dumped in the water cube trap, which is supposed to be inescapable. It's just such an epic moment to have Storm get out of this inescapable trap and to have Hoffman see Storm be wheeled off on that stretcher and be like, shit.
Yes.
Damn it.
It's so great because not only is it just a fun one to watch because obviously Storm's just a great performance here, but it's shot so well. We get this beautiful black screen as it zooms into this tiny little head, and then he wakes up and he's got this great look on his face, like, where the hell am I? And then all the lights turn on around him, and we get these classic like Saw transitions and movements. Everything about the way they put this together is just Saw perfection.
I'm pretty sure those moments were all used in the teaser trailer as well for Saw 5.
Of course it has to be.
Which is, what else would you use?
Yeah, of course.
It's iconic. It's everything. It's classic Saw, and we love it.
It is. And, of course, this trap was so hardcore that, if you've ever seen the behind the scenes, the way or the effort that they went to get this to work, you can imagine trying to fill up that cube as quickly as possible. It was an engineering feat and a half.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of work. And they had to actually drown Storm, like the actual actor.
I mean, like they kept saying that anyone else, if you put any stunt double in there, mannequin or anything, it's not going to look like the actor. You have to see the actor in there. So good old Scott Patterson took one for the team and let that box fill up multiple times and was acting while underwater. Like, what an effort. Great job.
What a performance.
Yeah.
He literally had to sit there while getting drowned happily, pulling off this great performance. And then when it got too much, he had his hand gestures so they could run over and let the water out to have another take. Really, the effort they went to here was fantastic.
It's insane. I'd like to know how many takes they did do before they got it right.
Too many was the answer.
Imagine drowning him. He's come out. You've let all the water out. You have to dry him up. You have to get his makeup back, and then put him back in there again.
Oh, it sounds like a nightmare.
An absolute nightmare.
And also, Scott Patterson did say behind the scenes that he was actually very proud of the trap. That he actually was one of the few to escape a Saw trap.
Of course, as he would be.
Very, very proud, especially consider it was supposed to be inescapable as well.
And he wouldn't be proud very later, would he?
We love Scott Patterson. We love Storm. What a guy.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2. What have we got? What's the big number 2?
At number 2, we have the reverse bear trap from Saw 1, 6, and 3D.
This is a trap which had to make the list. Of course, it is the big iconic trap of the franchise, seeing it multiple times throughout. And how can you not? How can you not like this bear trap?
How can you not have it? This trap has so much history. It started Saw. It was on the front of every single poster. It was on T-shirts. It was what you knew Saw for before the needle pit existed.
Yeah.
Not to mention it was also in the short film before Saw 1
exactly
was even
right.
a thing.
This is the trap that, of course, sold Saw as a feature film. They, of course, made a short film of Saw, which did exactly show almost entirely the full bear trap scene or reverse bear trap scene as it was.
It was just Adam, Lord Lee Winnell, playing the character in the reverse bear trap rather than Amanda.
Right. So it's kind of like really the trap that we owe the entire franchise to.
Exactly. It can't not be on this list, and I love it. I arguably would say that I prefer seeing the reverse bear trap go off on Jill or Hoffman than Amanda, just because those scenes are so epic to me. I think that Amanda's scene with the reverse bear trap in the beginning is classic. It's iconic.
Yeah.
But I get more enjoyability out of Hoffman escaping the reverse bear trap and then getting his revenge.
Well, it does actually go off in those scenes.
Yeah,
so
it does actually go off in those scenes. So I would say that the enjoyability factor is higher there for me, but regardless, the reverse bear trap is such an iconic trap to have on this list.
Yeah, out of the 3 scenes that it really does feature, you can't complain about any of them. Whether it's Jill's face completely getting torn in half, whether it's Mark Hoffman's phenomenal escape out of the reverse bear trap, which really is a great scene.
Absolutely epic scene.
Or if it is the iconic Amanda first Saw 1 trap. Or even if we're talking about the short film before that with Lee Winnell in it. Technically, there's 4 appearances. Any of those are always going to be a great one to watch. You're not going to complain if someone puts that scene on.
Not at all.
And yeah, it is iconic, like you said. I mean, look, it's probably got tattooed on countless people.
Oh, absolutely.
You get the replica with it if you buy the box set.
Yep.
This is the trap that people talk about. It's the first thing that people, usually reference when they're talking about Saw. Easy one to have. And if that's number 2, then what do we have at number 1?
At number 1, I'm sure you've already guessed it, we have the glass coffin from Saw 5.
I ask you, Special Agent Strong, have you learned enough to trust me?
Here it is, guys. You knew. You knew we were going to be picking it.
Don't say you guys didn't know.
This is our favorite trap. Of course, how could we put it anywhere else besides number 1? We have seen this a million times.
Pretty sure we watch this one every couple of weeks.
Yeah, we put it on every night.
Check it up on
before
YouTube.
bed.
There's a really great YouTube channel that redoes all the Saw scenes in 4K.
Yes.
So we've revisited a lot of them in 4K, and this seems to be the one that we revisit the most. Storm and Hoffman's performances in these scenes are amazing. Having Storm go out in the most badass way possible, having Hoffman grin up at him from down below. It's all iconic.
There's so much going on.
Yeah.
Of course, in this trap, Storm is supposed to just simply get into the glass coffin to survive. And as usual, he refuses.
He doesn't listen.
Doesn't listen. Ends up throwing Mark Hoffman in there instead. And what happens? Gets crushed by giant walls.
Gets crushed by the giant walls.
Yeah, and not only does this room look phenomenal, does the glass coffin look phenomenal, but like you said, the performance between the two is just so great. The little cat and mouse as they fight between each other, and just the small expressions from Hoffman as he's going down in that coffin. It's just chef's kiss. Just too good.
Perfect. It's I don't think there's a single trap in the entire franchise that beats this one.
Yeah, it is for us probably the trap that we've seen the most. It just
absolutely.
And whether that's because you love seeing Hoffman go down in that coffin and make those funny expressions, or if you just like watching Storm getting crushed.
I don't know what I love because I personally don't like Storm dying. Like I really like Storm as a character. But I wouldn't say that I'm watching it purely for Hoffman being like bitchy either. I think it's just such an epic scene. There's just so many layers to it. Like them finally, this big climax of them finally facing off, and then I don't know. It's just amazing.
You love everything about it.
I love everything about it.
I know who you are. I know.
We would love to hear what your top 10 was and whether it
course.
differentiates to ours. I think the glass coffin, you can't have anything else at number 1. But you guys may think something different, so let us know in the comments.
That's it, guys. That's right. If there's any glaring missing traps that we definitely didn't go over, definitely put them in the comments. But otherwise, chuck your top 10 down below, and we will see you in the next video.
See you next time, guys.
Game over.